Alfred Naro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it's the final call on this bill, the Energy Innovation, Electrical Vehicles and Other Matters Amendment Bill. Claire Curran had made a speech. I was a little bit confused because the analogies that I'd heard was a croissant of excitement, which ended up in a disappointment. Croissant, it sort of sounded very similar. And then it went on to pizzas. I'm not sure how they connect with electricity, but I do know that croissants are cooked in an oven, so that's electric. But pizzas, the best sort of pizza is cooked in a wood-fired oven. So I'm not sure how they connect with the electricity maker. Look, some of the comments that were made by the member were quite interesting. She talked about the fact, Mr. Speaker, that there wasn't a plan. And maybe the member is just, if they just talk about the bill in itself, then one could come to that conclusion. But if they look at actually what's been happening previously, and I want to draw the member to the attention of some of the plans that have... So the first thing you would do in a plan is you'd have a feasibility study, you'd engage with the sector. And we know that on the 31st of August, that's exactly what happened. And so the Minister of Joyce, along with Minister Bridges, they announced the procurement changes to drive electrical vehicles uptake. So that whole change was in consultation. There was a feasibility study that was done. So the member might like to read that because that's been part of what you would call formulating a plan. And that's the consultation. There was what they call an all-of-government panel that was in discussion to talk about, in their procurement of changes, how could they make it more affordable? And as Mr. James Shaw talked about, the fleet leasing of vehicles, which makes up to about 70% of our new vehicles in New Zealand, what we could do in that regard. So I'd just like to let the member know that those are some... She may like to know, she's about to go, but just before she goes, there's a few other things that she may want to be aware of. We had the Electrical Vehicles Contestable Fund. That was a way of engaging into the community to be able to talk about, Mr. Speaker, about the importance of how this fund could be funded in a way to, again, promote the key messages around electrical vehicles, how they could be beneficial to communities, to consumers. Those things were important. There were 14 areas that were engaged in the area. I talk about there was the Electrical Vehicle Day, in which there was a campaign that was constructed to ensure that more of this information was out there. Mr. Speaker, I know the previous Speaker, Claire Curran, talked about the lack of a plan. There was consultation with the sector. There was a feasibility plan. There was an engagement in regards to rolling out the key information to ensure that the community realised the benefits from electrical vehicles. That's been carried out. There's a contestable fund over $1 million to ensure that we could have this ongoing as well as part of that process. This bill is only one part. It ensures that there's an exemption that will allow for those for heavy electrical vehicles. It also means there's an opportunity to use the lanes that we know which are set aside for bus lanes. There are opportunities there. I would say, Mr. Speaker, it's not about a lack of a plan. In fact, I think it's well thought out. I think it's putting it forward. The previous speaker talked about, I suppose, the Labor Party talking about its release on the focus on work, I think it was called. And yet, for this government, we're just getting on and doing things that make the difference. Like, for instance, emergency housing, $300 million, 1,400 places available right throughout the country, 600 in Auckland, 800 throughout the rest of New Zealand. Those are the sorts of things that this government is about. This energy innovation, electrical vehicles, is about scoping more of that. We look forward to the submissions that will come forward into the sector. Mr. Speaker, we think, and we are glad to hear that right across the House, people are supportive of this bill. We're supportive of it to go in select committee. We've got a great chair that will take us through to hear these submissions. We look forward to returning this bill and the report to the House. I commend this bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. Contrary opinion will say no. The ayes have it.
Energy Innovation, Electric Vehicles and Other Matters Amendment Bill, first reading.
The question is that the Energy Innovation, Electric Vehicles and Other Matters Amendment Bill be considered by the Commerce Committee. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. I call on Government Orders of the Day numbers 2 to 6.